If ties between the Philippines and the United States had an online status, some would probably say it's complicated. An unwavering alliance for many, a love-hate partnership for others, the two countries share decades of history that negative rhetoric cannot easily erase. In this week's Food Diplomacy, I check in with America's envoy to the Philippines and dine on Korean Mexican food. It's a Southern California cuisine that reflects America's multicultural spirit. I'm now at the ambassador's residence to meet Ambassador Sung Kim. Hi, Ambassador.
Welcome to the residence.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited being an American. I wanted to see where the place is that I could feel at home.
Well, this is sort of your home too.
Yeah, my second home. All right. Ambassador Kim gives me a quick tour before we head to the kitchen, where Chef Sid Kim, a fellow Korean American, is whipping up a special meal. Chef Sid is the owner of Vatos Urban Tacos, a restaurant that specializes in Comex, with locations in South Korea, Singapore, and soon Manila.
Hey, Chef.
Ambassador,
How are you, Sid? Great to have you here.
thank you very much for inviting me. Appreciate it.
I'm really excited.
Oh, great.
Comex
So-
is one of my favorite cuisines, being from Korea and California. So I'm really thrilled that you're spending some time with us.
Thank
And
you very
of
much.
course-
Let me explain to you what
Great.
I've prepared today. So we have 3 dishes. First one is galbi taco. So this is kind of what we're famous for, at least my restaurant. It's a mix of Korean and Mexican flavors. So we have a handmade tortilla with 쌈장 aioli. 쌈장, as you know, for Korean barbecue.
I love it.
The second dish here is a quesadilla. However, this is a little unique in that we have marinated pork belly inside, Korean pork belly with doenjang. So that's a soybean paste that we talked about before. And then sauteed kimchi. So sauteed, that's the secret that I think a lot of chefs are making. I mean, they're making a mistake in that they're putting kimchi in everything, trying to be trendy and fusiony. But if you want to pair it with meat, you have to saute the kimchi first. Take the
Nice.
bite off, make it more savory, and it goes really well. And then the final thing is sort of a tribute to Tex-Mex, which is just a carne asada steak that I marinated.
USDA beef.
And, of course. USDA
American beef.
Angus beef,
Can't be
ribeye
at the
here.
American house
So,
without having
yeah.
American beef. What do you think?
Oh, I am so ready to eat.
Great, great.
Well, and I know you chose this type of food because, some of our viewers may associate American food with, burgers
Right.
or, turkey or something like that. But this is unique, right?
It's unique and delicious.
Oh, thank you. Well, I know, Ambassador, you grew up in Southern California, right? So you probably grew up on Mexican food and Korean food. And that's what we grew up in. Just like any other country, when you have 2 different cultures together, the food inevitably will merge.
And I love Comex. I'm from LA, so this is where it was born.
Well, I think a lot of people, when they first hear about Korean Mexican cuisine, they're like, what? What is that? And they think some 3-star Michelin chef somewhere, some crazy scientist put it together. But like I said, if you grew up in Southern California, this is literally food for us. It's what I grew up eating.
Well, good, and I'm glad you chose this type of food for us because it really epitomizes American culture.
Yeah,
Sure does.
and it's going to be a big hit with my daughters who are
Oh.
huge fans of your restaurant in Seoul.
Oh, okay, great.
Well, there
great.
you go, and they can
Awesome.
just when they visit you, They can
Absolutely.
go over
There you go.
there. You guys can go over
And then your
there.
next assignment, I just follow you and open up a restaurant there. Everywhere you go. That'll be my expansion plan.
Sounds like a plan.
See, we're bringing businesses together already. Thanks again, Sid. Good to have you.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to sitting
My
down and
pleasure.
eating in our next, in the dining room. That's where we're going to go next.
There you go. Happy favorite taco.
Thank you. Cheers. After we take our first bite of the tacos, I start firing questions on American culture and Filipinos pursuing the American dream. The fact that, you know, American culture has become so blurred with so many different influences. You know, here we have Korean, Mexican, Filipino, you know. So how do you define being American?
Well, I think that's one of the strengths of the United States is the diversity. But I really do believe that there's tremendous strength and depth to America because we are such a diverse society. And I think that will continue to keep us going strong. It's been an amazing assignment. As you may know, I wanted to come to the Philippines and so deeply grateful and privileged that I actually have this opportunity to represent my country in the Philippines.
And you've had a chance, obviously, to meet the American community here. Can you just give us a sense about how big it is and what the demographics are? Where are they working? What are they doing?
It's quite big. I think we have about 300,000 American citizens living and working in the Philippines. And maybe reflecting the diverse society that we have in the U.S., the American population in the Philippines is also quite diverse. We have some retired people, we have some veterans who settled here in the Philippines. We of course have a very robust business presence in both manufacturing and in the BPO sector. So I'm deeply proud that I can interact with and I can represent our American citizens here in the Philippines. But I should mention that the Filipino presence in the U.S. is even bigger.
Tell us about that one.
Well, we have almost 4 million Filipino Americans in the United States and making huge contributions to different sectors of our society, in the economy, in academia. So it's wonderful. And there are places like Hawaii and California where huge representation of Filipino communities. So I think the combination of the strong will and commitment by the two governments and strong support and engagement by Americans and Filipinos really makes this relationship much deeper and stronger. What's next?
Oh, these are the kimchi pork quesadillas.
Quick break before we get into the meat of our conversation as Chef Sid serves deliciously spicy kimchi pork quesadillas.
Sauteed kimchi is fabulous.
Do you saute, you said? Or you don't cook at all?
No, but
You saute.
I enjoy sauteed kimchi. I can make instant noodles too.
That's right.
No,
Spicy.
it's good though, isn't it?
I was talking and all of a sudden, and it's the punch of the kimchi.
I love it.
It's good. It's delicious. So anyway, so we were talking about the history of the Thais, just over 70 years.
Yep.
And of course, the cornerstone of the Thais has to be the military alliance, you know?
Well, the Marawi situation, of course, presented a huge threat to the Philippines. And we were very proud to support the armed forces of the Philippines. And you saw that throughout the 5-month saga in Marawi, with our forces, very small presence, but they provided, I think, incredibly important intelligence, information, technical advice. And we also, of course, were able to provide some much needed equipment. So that long history and decades of cooperation, exchanges, training, exercising together, I think all made a difference in the situation in Mali. The other important lesson is that this threat down south is very serious. And of course, terrorism threat is not unique to the Philippines. We're facing it globally.
And we just came out of the big ASEAN summit and President Trump's visit to the region. What do you think came out of that?
and clearly demonstrated the U.S.'s engagement and commitment to the Asia-Pacific or the Indo-Pacific region. This is an important region for us. In terms of U.S.-Philippines relationship, the President had a wonderful visit, had a very substantive meeting with President Duterte, and I think they reaffirmed their very strong commitment to working hard to keep this alliance, keep our overall bilateral relationship going very strong. I think there's recognition that this is an important relationship for both countries, for a whole host of reasons, including counterterrorism cooperation. But we also have a very robust economic partnership. That's something that we want to continue to expand and deepen as well.
I'm glad you mentioned economics, because that was a big, focus of President Trump while he was here, especially with ASEAN really pushing for this economic integration, opening up the markets, and we're always talking about the untapped potential, not just in ASEAN, but especially here in the Philippines. And I know you've been here now, and so you see the challenges of, infrastructure, bureaucracy, governance issues that really need to be addressed.
Well, there's no doubt that the Philippines, like many other countries, faces some huge challenges. You mentioned infrastructure, but I also sense that there is tremendous potential here in the Philippines. It's a very young population, hardworking population, English fluency, great natural resources. So I think there's tremendous potential. I know the Philippines has been doing very well economically, almost 7% growth for recent years, but I think it can do even better. And I hope that the United States will be a key partner as the Philippines economy continues to grow. I think in terms of what you can do, obviously the Philippine administration's focus on infrastructure building, just build. I think is an important initiative, and I hope that some of these big projects will get started soon.
I know a lot of American businesses are looking to get into that. $25 billion worth of trade between the two countries. I guess what kind of opportunities do you see there?
I think it can continue to grow, and I'm always encouraging U.S. companies to think about further business opportunities here in the Philippines. But likewise, I think it would be good for the Philippines industry to start to look for investment opportunities in the United States.
How do you try to, calm concerns of, the America First and the nationalistic policies that, a lot of the Philippine companies want to get into it, but they feel like there's a little bit of a pushback on the openness of the American economy?
Well, there really is, and as you know, we are the most open economy anywhere. What the president emphasized during the trip is that we of course support trade, we want to promote trade, but what we're looking for is fair and reciprocal trade.
Finally, Chef Sid serves our last dish, carne asada fajitas, served in a Tex-Mex style wrap. Perfect to wrap up our interview. Of course, there's also a huge focus on disaster relief and humanitarian aid and the socio-economic initiatives.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you raised them, because they really don't get the amount of attention or credit that they deserve. I'm very proud of what USAID has done over the years. This is not a recent thing. For many years now, they've engaged with their Filipino partners, engaged in a variety of programs focused on health, education, disaster relief, humanitarian assistance, governance, really wonderful programs. And one of the areas that we're looking at is what more we can do in terms of helping the Philippines rebuild Marawi. It's going to be an enormous effort, and we want to help as much as we can. And in fact, I just recently announced an assistance around 750 million pesos to help with not just immediate needs, but sort of medium-term, longer-term efforts in Marawi. And I hope that that's just the start of what we can do to support the Philippines' efforts in Marawi.
We talk a lot about the youth, right, and the huge young population here, and recruiting them in the move to promote peace and stability, because a lot of them are also, children of the militants, and we're in danger of possibly the resentment, the kind of revenge activities maybe So do you think there's a way to target that vulnerable population so that it's not, so we don't see this type of situation again?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important point. And in fact, our experts from USAID and also our public affairs section are working with their Philippines counterparts to try to design programs to counter recruitment efforts by dangerous groups. And we know they will try. That's why so many of our programs are targeted at schools, so both younger age, but also going through university and graduate schools. Because I think it's important to make sure that these young people are able to make smart decisions and to resist when these evil people try to recruit them for their evil purposes.
We talk a lot about, being in the media, we talk a lot about human rights and this push for democratic ideals, but at what point should we focus on the development and the inclusive growth?
Definitely see a need to make stronger efforts towards a more inclusive growth. And as you say, that's very much related to some of the negative developments that we're seeing in Mindanao and beyond. So we will continue to work with the Philippines government and local communities to try to come up with programs to promote a more equitable, more inclusive growth in different parts of the country. And I do hope that our friends in the Philippines will take an interest in U.S.-Philippines relationship and that they will continue to support our efforts in a whole variety of ways in terms of our economic partnership, in terms of our military alliance, and everything else we're doing in terms of USAID. I should mention that U.S. Peace Corps also has a big presence here. I'm very proud of these young Americans who come to the Philippines and spend a year or two in really remote areas, but they all leave with tremendous pride in what they've accomplished and tremendous affection and respect for the Philippines.
But there's always going to be critics, and I guess what would you have a message for the people that maybe question the relationship or the fairness of the relationship?
All I can say to those who have questions about the relationship is look at what we're actually doing together, rather than focusing on public statements or rhetoric. If you look at what the two countries are doing together, what the two governments are doing together, what the two militaries are doing together, what USAID is doing with their Filipino partners, I think you will get a very good sense of really the depth of the relationship. May not be perfect. I'm not aware that there is actually a perfect relationship anywhere, but I know that having served as a U.S. diplomat for almost 30 years now, and having served in many different capacities and other very important relationships, I know that this is a very, very special relationship. And I think this is a relationship that is really important to both countries and that we should all strive to make it even better, because I think it can be better.
Oh, such a positive note. Thank you so much, Ambassador Kim. What a pleasure. All right, thanks again. Good to have you.